Coming up on Kingdom Conversation.
And then she goes and get a little above herself and
Okay.
decide to put Aaron in all of her thinking, and what Moses is doing and how he's doing this, and all of that murmuring and grumbling. So God had to show her individually, along with her brother that agreed with her, I am still God.
You do need to hold people accountable after
Mhm.
you've done the hard work of saying, okay, is this me? Do I need to humble myself? Or maybe they do need to change something, and you need to ask God to give you the wisdom to know how to approach them so that they can be held accountable, but that you don't do it in a way that is
Mhm.
displeasing to God as well.
Amen.
Something that
Absolutely.
someone else has done to you in the past, and now you can't trust new leadership.
I think that she just wasn't humbled. She just really felt like mostly everything that everybody else said. I'm just echoing off of you guys, but she just wasn't humbled. I To me, I think that if I was in Egypt and I was in bondage and I had a hard taskmaster that was really working me, and I seen the hand of God come in there with those plagues, and I heard the voice of God saying, let my people go. And if I had seen all of the signs and wonders that my brother had did according to the voice of God, I think when I got past that Red Sea, I don't think I would have, went up against them. I
Right.
think whatever he told me to do, I probably would have did it, prophetess and all. Whatever God said, we know you hear from God because he gave you the instructions to get us out of a situation, although they was angry too, because they had already gotten, a little antsy because they didn't have what they had in Egypt. However, they were led out so that God could deal with them personally. And then she goes and get a little above herself and
Okay.
decide to put Aaron in all of her thinking, and what Moses is doing and how he's doing this, and all of that murmuring and grumbling. So God had to show her individually, along with her brother that agreed with her, I am still God. you know
Mhm.
I am still God. And when I give instructions, it's you are supposed to humble yourself and follow me. And she did straighten up after that. After
It took a little
Yeah,
bit.
no more
you
about
know that
Miriam after that.
that's right. Didn't have to worry about her getting out of order after that. But some things we can learn before we go into the
Yeah. Right.
consequences.
Right.
If you see a man of God, because although that was her little brother, and although she did help him, as a child, and she was there, you know, I am the mother of the shepherd of our house, or apostle. I was the daughter to my father that was pastor, but we didn't get no special privileges when it came to God. Now, once we got home, I'm Doris, I'm my dad's daughter, or my son may come over here, I'm Ma, Ma, you this or that. But in the household of faith, when it comes to the things of God, you have to know your place.
Right.
Even outside of the household of faith, it doesn't take from that the anointing that rests upon that person's life. But Naisha, you said something so powerful. We have to honor the gifts, all of the gifts,
Right.
not just those that we feel like is in leadership or in a place in ministry. That person that holds the door, whatever position you serve. In fact, they're the greatest, according to the scriptures. The greatest among us is those that keeps the door, you
Right.
know, and it's just a vastness to who God is in in his rightful place in all of our life. And Miriam and Aaron just kind of stepped away from that for a minute and evidently got in their flesh, and God had to give them a lesson that they just would not fail to remember. They had to remember that lesson because
Mhm.
it took Moses, it took them going against Moses to happen, and it also took Moses to deliver them from it. You know,
Yeah.
Moses spoke the word, and the leopards left,
Right.
their hands. So it's just like life is today. God didn't say He was going to humble us. He first of all told us to humble ourselves.
Right.
You know, so our instructions is to humble ourselves. We're not waiting to become submissive. We become submissive and wait for the strength for it to come naturally. You
Right.
know,
Right.
we're
Right.
not naturally submissive or naturally humbled or naturally, good necessarily. But as we become humble, as we become submissive, and in order to be submissive, you have to know how to trust too. You
Right.
cannot submit to somebody or something that you don't trust.
Right.
Right.
I
Right.
would not take a 1992 car all the way to Baltimore
Right.
thinking that motor could go up anytime now,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to submit myself to that. I'm just going to recognize that car is not where it needs to be and keep that car at home.
Right.
Well, on the other hand, you can trust a car that you feel like is in the right condition to be able to carry you. Same thing with your husbands, the same thing with husbands and wives. We have to show ourselves trustworthy and they have to show themselves trustworthy. I'm very submissive to my husband simply because I trust him and I trust the things that he said. I trust him being able to uphold me or to keep me lifted up. If every time he came home, you're the worst person that he's seen all day, you're you yelling and all of that kind of stuff, no, you're not going to submit to that, and neither are they going to submit to you. So there's work that we have to do ourselves, including myself. I'm not where where I can be, because sometimes I have to question some of the things that that you're giving me so that I can get an understanding that it's
Right.
okay to submit to,
Right.
you know. And
Yes.
sometimes men don't like that. They just want you to
Mm.
trust me, take my word for it. I ain't gonna give you a straight. I know you're not. I believe you. I trust you. But explain to me again what you're saying.
Right.
Right. Because I need to, and it's also because of the gift that we are as women.
Yeah.
God, created us to be helpers. So we
Yes.
need to understand the vision. We need to understand because we're
Absolutely.
strategists. We're the one that pieces together to help do the work. The man usually
Absolutely.
has an ideal or a dream, but usually it takes that woman of God
That
um,
helper.
to
Hmm.
help and piece it up together and so that it can flow properly. And when you learn how to submit your gift to
Hmm.
that man of God, everything works out beautifully the way that it's supposed to. But if you're having a hard time and you're fighting the man of God and everything that he does, you really need to search yourself. Why don't you trust him? Where is
Yes.
the mistrust, not just in your spouse, but even with your spiritual leadership or
That's right.
people in your that you function with in the body of Christ? What is it that you don't trust them? Where's this mistrust coming from? Because that could be something that you might need deliverance from, something that
Absolutely.
someone else has done to you in the past, and now you can't trust new leadership or the people who are covering you, and you make it hard for them. Because
Right.
my question, because I always say my husband is my safe place. I can go to him about anything and know that there's going to be no condemnation or anything like that. I can tell him anything and everything that I feel and on my mind, and I know that there's love and there's grace there. My thing is, are you your husband's safe place, or are you your spiritual leader's safe place? Can they be vulnerable before you and you not crucify them,
Mhm.
and you not make it hard for them, and you not make them come in there to lead and cover you grievous for them?
Mhm.
Even Paul said, do not grieve. Don't make it a grieving process for your leaders. you know be submitted to them so that they can do it, and they can do it with joy and pleasure. You can make them ministering and covering you grievous, where they're doing it out of sorrow, where they're having a drug ministry, where they're aching and they're hurting and they're broken and they're still having to pray and cover you in their brokenness, because you won't be a safe place for them, because we're supposed to also cover our leaders. Yeah. And be a safe and a covering for them as well. We all function and we all work together in a unity. And it's the same thing with our spouses in our household. We're also their covering.
Being a daughter of a pastor was not an easy life for us, because we were supposed to automatically know that we were loved, automatically know that we were special, but everybody else got the outward love and the outward, I love you. Now, my dad and my parents never felt to tell us how much they love us, but we wanted to, when it was time to go into the household of faith, we wanted our name called sometime, but it was everybody except for them. And they were covering people that was not ready for your family. We're living in a different time now, because leaders now, look at Bishop Jakes, his whole family is in ministry with him. Look at Creflo Dollar, look at these other large ministries. They love their family, they speak of their family, they bring their family up. That's something that mostly people of color has to get accustomed to. Because most people would say, oh, you got a family ministry since your mom is one of the leaders in your house. Oh, you're always, and one thing that I can say for the most part, people love to see spouses come together with love and unity and sharing and kissing and everything. And it makes the couples that's looking on. And I know that simply because of watching large ministries and how awesome it is when you see that unity,
Right.
And even in family with Miriam, Moses, and Aaron, I'm sure he could have picked anyone else to be able to interpret for him, but he picked his brother. Someone that probably knows his heart, someone that probably understand him and he can flow with, and things like that. And also God is the one that picked him, so we know that. But it could have been someone else. I think it's important for family and ministry to work together and to trust one another and to be there for one another, as much as it is for the congregation to be there. And we have to tear down the barrier of feeling like your family is running something, because the heart of the Father, from what I've seen in ministry, is for that family to be in its proper place.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, in ministry. Exactly. I'm not used to it. Even at the Ark, I am very slow to. My apostle know that he has my support, but I'm slow to necessarily show it, because of the heart and the mind of people that does not understand having that security. You feel like you're stepping up too fast. You need to give somebody else a chance, and really that's a flaw in ministry.
Yeah,
that's a flaw. And maybe that's something I wanted to get off my chest or something, because that kind of felt good.
That's right. This conversation is for us to release.
Yeah, because when we was younger, it was horrible. I didn't even want to go to my dad's church, because I was treated better at everybody else's church. They recognized something in me that my dad wasn't allowed to talk about. So, Aaron and Miriam, I don't want to get far off of that, but I'm sure that they were not received as everybody else, probably.
Wow, that's a perspective right there.
Yeah. And God asked me the same thing that you said. What is it about his life that you can't hear from him? Or what is it about his instructions that you do not want to follow? He was talking about my dad. I said, I don't agree with everything that he's saying. I don't feel like it's nothing wrong with half of the stuff that I do. I just feel like it's him wanting to get on me in front of people. And so that's what I told Daddy when he asked me that question. That's what I told God when he asked me that question. But he says, but if you're going to submit to this vision, then you have to humble yourself. That was God's answer to me. He said, then if you're going to submit to this vision, you're going to have to humble yourself. And I think that was a warning that if you don't humble yourself, then you're going to force me to humble you. And I did not push that issue.
And you didn't want to be like MIRIAM, did you?
Yeah.
You didn't want to be like MIRIAM.
That's right. I went to my dad and I apologized and I told him whatever he asked me to do from now on, I'm going to do it. I apologized. I said, God dealt with me and he understood and he was very excited about it because he probably was praying that God would deal with me because I was bucking against, the system there. And
so you understand what MIRIAM was going through, huh?
Oh yeah, all I could hear was humble, humility. She needed to humble herself, based upon that.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to add something real quick. I was when you were talking, because I grew up as a PK, and I can definitely, not myself because I wasn't the one. It was my older siblings who bucked. And so learning from them, I always think, I wonder if she had taken a different approach, because sometimes the leaders, they do need that counsel. They do need someone that they can say, okay, here's the vision, but it's how you do it. It's how you approach them. It's how you do that. And so with my dad, sometimes I would just go to him and I knew that he was craving, someone to talk to, and maybe my mom was asleep or everybody was. And so I would just go and talk to him and I had his ear. And so when I had a concern or if I saw him do something I didn't agree with, then I was able to go to him and talk to him about certain things that my other siblings weren't able to do. And so I think about that even with MIRIAM and even in any situation when we think of the workplace and of business, sometimes you do certain things to position yourself because you know that wisdom says, I don't need to attack this person, but maybe if I approach them in a different way, then they can receive what I'm saying. And of course that works in marriage as well. And sometimes you do need to hold people accountable after you've done the hard work of saying, okay, is this me? Do I need to humble myself? Or maybe they do need to change something and you need to ask God to give you the wisdom to know how to approach them so that they can be held accountable, but that you don't do it in a way that is displeasing to God as well.
Coming up on Kingdom Conversation.
Like, and I'm thinking too, even in those days, to be at that statue as a judge amongst the men as a woman, I'm pretty sure she had to endure a lot.
Her desire to please God and her tenacity to move forward with the plan of God, even to go into battle, is just awesome.
You had to be something because they should have been running to her. Like, where the boy? And they went out to go find her. Like, where is Deborah at? Okay, we need her. We need to talk to her. We need help.
Along with being a warrior, I mean, to have that as a female, I could see why she's mentioned in scriptures.
Be a part of our community. Follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and follow us on Instagram. Make sure that you are liking, that you're commenting, and that you are subscribing to our YouTube page as well. And don't forget to hit that notification button so this way you are made aware of all the new content that we place out. Also on our website, you can subscribe to our blog so this way you are in the know of all our updates, of all the new people who are joining our communities, and ways that you can get involved with us here at Kingdom Women Enterprise.